Just if I just pick B up in my thing, so the board's
It is 6:31. I will call our Monday, July 15th meeting to order. Roll call. Joel?
Yep.
Leah? Here. Sarah?
Here.
Tom?
I am here.
I'm also here. Dr. Slade?
Hi.
Has our meeting been properly noticed?
Sure has.
Please join in the pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would someone like to read the mission statement?
Sure. The Mount Horeb Area School District in partnership with
Lafayette County is already observed winds of 80 miles per hour.
What is happening?
The storms are coming already.
In partnership with the community is dedicated to nurturing, educating, and challenging all students, preparing and empowering them to be productive, responsible, and self-fulfilled members of society.
Thank you, Leah. Number 2, approval of our agenda. Would someone like to make a motion?
I will move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Sarah, second by Tom. All those in favor of approving our agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 2B, approval of our July 1st, 2024 board regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the board meeting minutes from July 1.
Second.
Motion by Tom and seconded by Joel to approve our July 1st, 2024 board regular meeting minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Number 3, addressing the board. School news. Dr. Slano.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight at our new time. For those listening into this meeting, we have a new time for our Board of Education meetings that will start at 6:30 p.m. And committee meetings, I should say, will start at 5:30 p.m. Those committee meetings, of course, that meet on the same nights that our Board of Education meets. All the rest of our committee meeting times will remain the same. Two bits of news that I'd like to share. First, I want to thank Tim Killinger. Those of you who know Tim know him to really just be a really earnest and thoughtful teacher of our tech program, our tech ed program. Last week, he hosted a program for our UW Stout friends. It's his alma mater, and did that in the Fab Lab. I want to say we probably had a good, how many people would you guess were there last week? How many tech ed teachers from around the state were there?
Tech ed, math, etc.
Yeah.
About 10?
Yeah, a good number of folks who were here. And it was a great chance for us to showcase our beautiful Fab Lab that we have, fabrication lab that we have that was helped paid for by the state. So tip of the hat to Tim. If you get a chance to see him, be sure to thank him, won't you please? And then likewise, we're sadly entering into the last week of summer school. A lot of really disappointed kids, to be sure, but a really great group of people who've worked very, very hard in order to have a very successful program. Chief among them are the students, high school students who have volunteered their time getting up early in the morning in summer to lend a hand to our amazing teachers who've just provided some really fantastic programs, both in terms of supporting reading and writing instruction, but also an opportunity to have some fun along the way. Sarah Straka, did I understand there's something about Taylor Swift, a club?
Taylor Swift Shimmer? Yeah.
Yeah. How cool is
Little
that?
Travis Kelce mix in.
Travis Kelce's, can you make an appearance?
Take that class.
So had a little fun along the way, but that all comes to an end this week. But we thank everybody who's done so much to help support our young people. We'll have a report to the board, likely the second meeting of August.
Aubrey, can I call on you? Would you kindly talk about our event on Wednesday?
Oh my gosh, yes. We have a community barbecue on Wednesday from 5:30 to 7. Our very own Steve will be on the grill.
Going to dissuade people from coming.
I know, celebrity chef. We'll also have, vegan options. So I bought some bean burgers, chips, soda, cookies, some fruit for a healthy option. But it'll just be a good time, good cooperation, exciting evening.
About 110 people have signed up so far.
That's great.
And if you still chance, if you haven't had a chance yet to, by noon tomorrow, I think is the deadline to RSVP.
I think if
today,
you-
but
Oh, like I said, today.
Thank you, today.
At noon.
I was gonna say, if you post the celebrity chef, there might be a few more
Yeah.
people that.
Botulism burgers.
yeah, that includes families, so students, adults, etc. from around the community. It'll be good.
Thank you, Aubrey. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other school news? Chelsea, I see you sitting behind us. Do you have any citizens' comments back there?
I don't,
Okay.
that's my,
All right, awesome, thank you. Number 4, personnel transactions.
Board members, there is an addendum for you this evening.
motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Leah, seconded by Joel to approve our personnel transactions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Moving on to number 5, our consent agenda. There are 2 things, as Dr. Sarno pointed out in our weekly update, that Sarah Straka presented at Education Committee, but otherwise standard. Anyone like to make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Sarah, seconded by Tom to approve our consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Number 6, discussion items. Our committee and village reports. Adam is not here to discuss education. Sarah, do you want to give like just a brief summary? You don't have to. but if you want to.
Man, that was.
I don't know. I was there
A while ago.
I can pull up
That's
the
before
minutes
my
if you'd
vacation.
like.
Yeah, I'd have to pull up the minutes. I apologize.
No worries, I
That's
got
all
it.
right. I called you on the spot. We can
No.
also wait.
Yeah, sorry. 1 second, please.
We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Sarah, would you like to talk about community college?
We have not met yet. We're meeting on the 23rd.
Okay, awesome. And then I can give a short village report. Village met on the 10th. They had a short meeting. There was 2 members absent. They talked about the Luckin Farm financing. There was I didn't quite catch what his role was, but there was an outside source who came and discussed funding options, a state trust loan program, and the other major agenda item was the country music fair. You hadn't seen that on Facebook. So those were the 2 main items talked about at the village meeting.
Yep, I'm ready. We had our typical and customary updates, but prior to that, actually, we had our committee reorganization. So we had some new members on our team, which is great. Curriculum updates, CKLA, which is our new literacy resource, has been purchased, delivered, and distributed to all staff. So they have those in their classrooms, and we completed our universal spring screeners. For grade and assessments, we were working on a sandbox environment to look at how averaging mode, decaying average, all these types of formulas, running those scenarios on some student grades last year to see how that would look. And we're continuing our work into July and August. The high school is also nearing completion of their employability skills, similar to work habits on the elementary report card, the employability skills at the high school level. CESA 6, on our equity updates, I shared our CESA 6 Center for All information, which now I think every board member at the table now between SAW and education has an idea of the work with the IDI we're doing there. And then a couple other pieces, student possession and the use of personal electronic devices. That policy will be going before the board soon. It's not at this meeting, but will be at a future meeting. And then we also heard from Talisa Corcoran, who provided information about some of the IB courses that we will be looking at and we've already considered and approved. So that was nice as well. And the board also, last but not least, approved the academic standards at its July 1st meeting. So there was discussion there as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Moving on to 6B, Brian Johnson, do you want to come talk about Title IX?
Wanted to give a brief update on Title IX regulations. So on April 19th of this year, the Department of Education released the upcoming changes to Title IX. Since that date, we have been working with our district lawyers to figure out implementation strategies, supports that we'll need, as well as training for the people who will be implementing some of these changes. Since that date, states have started to implement injunctions against implementing them. Different courts have disallowed states from enacting the new regulations. And so I think when I looked up this morning, it's up to 20 states as of today. Steve put up in front this injunction tracker that one of the training sites that we use have. And so we just kind of keep following who's around it. Right now, Wisconsin is in no action. So there's nothing in place that would prevent us from implementing these regulations. And in fact, for our state, as of right now, if they were implemented tomorrow, we would be under legal obligations to implement them and use them. And so we are getting everything prepped and ready. We have given our old policies to our attorney, and this is something that they're rewriting for us. Very law specific. If you remember the last time, if anybody was on the board when we passed them to begin with, it's there. They do the writing, and they look very different than any other policy we have. And it is because it is like, it's very specific. The law states you must list the investigator, the decision maker, all of that stuff have to be listed. And so in no other policy would you list Brian Johnson, Director of Student Services, but in this policy it does. And so our hope is if everything stays the same, we're continuing to monitor it, we're continuing to get training on it, and as long as the regulations remain as is by August 1st, and that's the implementation date, that next board meeting, we will directly bring the new policies to that meeting. It is not a policy because we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen that we bring to SAW and have a discussion around it and then bring to the board. We will need to enact right away, and so we will bring it to that first meeting in August.
I was just going to say if there's any questions, go ahead.
I'm wondering if you could maybe just inform the full board about the training obligations that we have.
Yeah. So once this does get enacted, then every single employee of the district must be trained. So that will include all staff, all coaches, all bus drivers, food service, every component must be trained. And so we're working with our attorneys on providing that training, what it looks like, how long it is. We know another neighboring law firm, it's about a 45-minute training, which is reasonable but still long. And then how we can do that effectively with our staff, whether that is through our Skyward account and then they watch it, which they're do on multiple different components every year. For certain groups, does that mean we watch it as a group and then have a discussion around it? How does that work? And then how do we keep track to ensure that every single person has gone through the training? And so that is our hard part, is we want to make sure that they've gone through it, and then we have verification that they have. So those are things that we're working hard on over the next month or next couple weeks to be able to implement. And the training, to be honest, the specific training that we need to be the investigators and decision makers and all of those pieces is not developed yet either. And so as soon as those come out, then Aaron and I specifically will be going through that pretty heavy to make sure that we're ready for the new regulations to be implemented as well.
We know that this is administration driven at the federal level, and so should there be a change in administration, we can anticipate as a school district that this will evolve and there'll be some changes. Absent that, then we would just wait to see if there's any circuit court action as some of these some of these states are within our circuit court jurisdiction that could ultimately affect what we do. It would be a circuit court matter. as opposed to a state matter if it is contested. So the other piece is that every new employee has to be trained within 30 days. And so we'll have to develop a system to ensure that we're meeting that requirement as well. So interesting times, to be sure. And the work, I think, will probably also be expanded significantly, given the scope of the regulations is significantly different than it was under the previous administrations.
So just a thought and a question, Brian, is, I mean, we don't want to politicize this, but it's obviously very a political issue. So if we do have a change in administration come November, obviously we know a lot of these states who are saying do not implement this. It's because of the gender portion in the. So if we would have a change in administration, do you think there's any possibility that Wisconsin would end up being a state that would say, okay, with all these changes, we're not going to put this in place, and could that flip? And if those changes aren't, so if administration changes and Title IX changes again, so we'll have to go through all this training in August, what's the timeline you think? Like how long after that would we have to do training maybe again? Just curious.
I think that could be, it could go any way. I think, and you can correct me on this, but that they could immediately say where these regulations are no longer effective. Or, you know, the current administration has gone through it. We've been told probably for 2 years, like it's in review, it's gonna come out in the next, month or two. And so we've been preparing for it for a really long time. So it could go to review and council and committees and go through a whole process.
So we just really don't know, it's just however they wanna work it.
Yep.
You may recall that the Trump administration's regulations came out in the 4th year of his administration, and so it took them a good 3 years to kind of put something together. And similarly now, the Biden administration has done likewise. How fast, if that were to occur, is really, I think, either reverting back to the old Trump rules, which could happen overnight, or there could be some consideration of trying to meld something together in a bipartisan way. I don't know. But to your point, if that were the case, surely Wisconsin could consider flipping this, and then you would see us in stripes.
Right.
It just really kind of depends.
And it's interesting to me, some of the states on the map who are not, like Minnesota, California, for instance. So I'm wondering if there are some other pieces that are, they're doing an amicus brief, but like Minnesota has protections in place that are law to protect gender and different types of things. So it's very interesting.
When there's policy like this dictated from the federal government, do we get extra funding to implement? I mean, seriously.
You're so smart.
I mean, I'm naive about it, but
from your lips to God's ears, no, these are mandates without any funding,
right,
which is typically the case.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit backwards. If you want us to do things, I think they should be kicking in some funding.
You're so right.
And Steve mentioned it kind of briefly, but the ask on the Title IX, the number of, what we anticipate is the number of investigations that will need to take place will be significantly more than what's currently in place. And an investigation isn't a simple, did this happen, A, B, and C, right? Sometimes it can be months-long investigations and very time-intensive.
Especially if they're now that they're broadening the scope of what can be investigated.
What can be investigation where
it happens.
assaults could take place, or discrimination or harassment would take place. There's lots of components that got bigger.
Yeah.
Instead of more. Yeah, it looks real dark outside. Just saying that.
I'm not trying to be rude, I just want to monitor this one.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll stay south.
Yes.
It doesn't. So with this particular mandate and title, with possible changes coming, we don't know, right? So, but we do need to implement it as soon as possible, or do we, as a district, we say, okay, do we drag our feet? I guess I don't understand that portion of it.
Yeah, I would say we don't want to drag our feet, but we do want to wait until the moment where we need to enact it. I've talked to some different directors today, and they're passing it actually at tonight's meeting. And I think that I would say that that would be premature based on what we're finding. We don't want to pass a law, a policy tonight, and then in 2 weeks have it be changed. And so the regulations go into effect on August 1st. We don't have students in session on August 1st, so we feel safe waiting until that Monday afterwards to be able to bring it to the board. So we don't want to drag our feet, but we want to wait until it's reasonably effective.
Thank you.
So it seems to me like the most egregious part of this is the reporting function. I mean, from a costing perspective, I'm thinking through that. You mentioned a couple of new processes about new people and the investigation stuff. Was there any other surprises in there or anything else that puts extra burden on you guys, schools, anything like that? That was not expected.
We purposely have wanted to share the concern we have about the reporting obligations and the investigatory obligations. Prior to this, you may remember that if someone didn't want to have a Title IX investigation occur, we would just let it be. But we have a duty under the new regulations to still have that investigation. And as Sarah has thoughtfully mentioned here too, is that it used to be the investigations had to have a nexus of some sort to the schoolhouse. And now the feds are saying, if we know or should have known that a sexual or other type of harassment activity took place off campus, we are responsible for holding a parallel investigation with the police. The police have a different burden of proof, and ours is reasonable suspicion versus probable cause with the police. And so a student could still be held accountable for a Title IX violation from a school-based perspective, but not on a police setting. This is really new territory we're plowing here. And my guess is because of this new piece about broadening the scope of what constitutes gender in our language, moreover, what constitutes investigatory needs, we're going to have to ramp up some support at some point. First, we want to monitor it, do a time study, and if we need to, make some kind of recommendation to the board about next steps. But I think a lot's going to change here, even in the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks. And so we don't want to be too quick to swat a fly with a cannonball.
Reasonable suspicion sounds like a new legal standard to me.
Our standard has always been reasonable.
I was going to ask, do we have other, okay, so that's not.
Yeah, so we have broader authority as a school district to do a search, for example. We suspect that, and it's reasonably suspected that a student has something. Whereas there must be probable cause for a police, meaning that they have actual evidence to support that searching the student would be appropriate. Isn't it amazing?
Reasonable, it's like in the investment world, they say, what would a prudent man do? Well, you can define that in 7,000 ways. So anyway.
I think some of the language that the lawyers are really looking at closely and will help us that are making us potentially nervous is the true definition of harassment. And it used to be severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive. And there's some components where instead of an and, it was changed to an or. And so what does that look like, and what does that mean in terms of meeting the definition of that, where it used to be a little bit higher? When you ask about surprises as well, I'll give a surprise that I had, which is that if somebody claims sexual harassment against somebody, and kind of like all roads lead to that it likely happened, how the law states is that the person, there can be no forms of any punishment until the investigation is over for that act. And I was surprised that remained as stringent as it was. And so I do worry that it makes high school students more leery to report if they know that an investigation can take 30 days or more, that I want to be in class with somebody for 30
And
more
there's no
days after I
ramifications for this, to the-
make this report this. Title IX covers all forms of education, including colleges. So in a college setting, maybe that makes more sense. In a K-12, I think it's much harder for us.
So we'll also have to do a lot of student and parent education on this, because 2 kids work at McDonald's and there's a sexual harassment claim. Now we have to investigate it because somebody told us about it, and now somebody could theoretically end up suspended or something because of something that didn't happen at school. Like, that's gonna,
And there could be conceivably 3 different outcomes. It could be the McDonald's employer who's done their investigation might have a different standard. It could be the school district because they've got the reasonable person standard, and then you've got the probable cause standard by the police.
yeah.
So one act may elicit 3 different possible variations in response. And the stay put order, meaning you can't require any kind of discipline to occur until such time as the investigation has been fully adjudicated, that's really problematic for families who say, this is so obvious, why can't you do something about it? There's the education of our families, of our young people.
Because one thing could lead to,
Yes.
like, their whole little world coming down.
Yeah.
Let the courts figure it out, right? Okay.
So that's where we're at right
Thanks
now.
for the update. Appreciate that.
We'll keep you informed.
Brian, do you want to move on to 6C, information advocacy report, individual academic, social, and emotional supports?
Yes, so perfect. Yeah, I have it up in front of me too. So this is always a fun information advocacy report that I do, because it really talks about the good work that's happening in my world, which is kind of student services, as well as special education, and looking at the demographic information about how are we doing, who's in our classrooms. Also, thanks to Aubrey's, good work. I had so many great pictures of the work that we were doing, and so. Right off the bat, right, is our student services team, who you guys kind of honored and looked at as doing good things work I think that was last month. And so the focus really ended up changing. This report would have looked a lot different, right, if I would have presented it in April versus now. And so when I look at all of the things that our student services have done since May 1st, it's pretty remarkable. We've searched and tried to find different ways by helping students get support. And when you look at the number in the chart, you can see that we supported a lot of kids and adults. When you look at the initial check-ins versus the meeting 2 to 3 times, and you can really look at the 6 through 8, how that significant high number really did drop, really maintained the same number of individuals. And so that's where, we thank the board for, hiring an extra school psych to help us at the end of the year. We did have some additional support, and the elementary staff sent their staff over. So it has different implications for. We did get evaluations done for special education. We still met our timelines, but they came into the summer because they were helping out at other buildings. And so different things took priority, and the priority became being able to meet with students and adults 56 times at 4 or more different occasions in a month, right? And so we're really able to do a lot of good work, and we still have a lot of good work to continue to do. And so kind of when you go through, that's, I think, the big takeaway. Our students with disabilities is continuing to increase as a district. Especially as our overall numbers decrease, I just think that was such an incredible picture. our 18 to 21-year-old program had an end of the year bowling party, and you can see a few of the kids in the back got their official diploma that day, and really kind of celebratory. So we're at 355 students with an IEP throughout our school district, continuing to increase. And we're supporting kids in lots of different components. So we're supporting kids through 18 plus, through Common Threads, through Operation Fresh Start, and through our school district. And then a little bit further, our kind of our four main categories that we have students in is speech and language, learning disabilities, OHI, and then autism. And those are kind of significantly higher, and then we have a scattering of students with lots of other underlying disabilities. And the biggest change in our 504 data is it's remaining relatively consistent at our high school, but it is increasing at our other levels. When I looked at previous data, PC was at 000 for many years, and then last year they were at 1. This year it's at 4. I already know next year it's going to be even higher. ELC will have their first one, so it just is that's a kind of a continuous cycle of more and more students qualifying under those categories. And then the rest of the data is just the work that we're doing to support. We're working on staff training, what that looks like, who's kind of involved in it. We're talking about the RTI, multi-level systems of support. That's a new graphic that is now on the DPI website. It has started many years ago as the triangle, and it moved to an orangish circle, and now it's moved to the greenish circle. And it's all focused on continuous improvement and continuous supports as they, a lot of the work that you guys are doing to support our initiatives and our administrative regs and plans, right? It's the positive culture, climate, belonging, and how do we continue to provide good quality instruction. And so then kind of have some different pictures of some of the different elements that we kind of talk about throughout that we've done. We worked really hard last year. Before this report, there was a lot of concern about how we would address bullying as a district, what that looks like, and are we really training, and are we training the parents on that as well? And so one of the biggest things that we did to start the school year is that every building did a presentation on how to report bullying, what bullying looks like, and then it was uploaded to the front of the website. So this is one, I think this is the IC, this is the front of their website. And so you can click on it and find all the information, including the presentation that we give to students. So all parents and families can have access to that to see what's being taught and how we're addressing it. I also, if you remember, did a newspaper article on bullying and how to prevent it and how to stop it and what to look for as a community as well, all in this fall, to kind of look at some of those components as well. We also had our community engagement night, belonging, and our cultural fair, and so that was super fun, as well as our sign painting night. I thought that was such a great picture. And one of the family services of Madison also did a 4-part session for family and community members this past spring on trauma and what trauma looks like and how to address it within your home and families as well. And then we broke the three categories down. We just what are some of the good work that you're doing within the school? And we just keep adding to this. And is it making you academic ready, social ready, or emotional ready? And then we broke it down into each kind of building cluster, and wrote lots of the good stuff that's happening in each building and what we're looking at. So that's kind of what I have for the report.
Brian, I had one question for you. Back to the different areas of IEPs that that figure 2. Are those 3 the that you talked about, the speech or language, the autism, are those 3 or 4, are they historically the top areas of?
I would say that speech and language has traditionally never been the top.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I was just wondering, like, is
Yeah, that
this
has
a result of
definitely
COVID?
been a result of COVID.
Yeah. I was trying
Typically,
to ask you around about.
yeah, I appreciate that. LD, SLD used to be significantly higher, but now with all of the recommendations of probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, the laws changed about identification. And instead of just being your IQ here and your performance here, and is there a discrepancy model, then it became now you must implement 2 research-based interventions. You need to show that either growth isn't being made or we're not closing the gap enough for it to continue. But kids are really getting some of those strong interventions, and it's making a big difference. And so that's a good thing that it's decreased. And OHI, I would say, has gotten a little bit higher, especially with kind of the ADHD diagnoses, and as those kind of increase, that's why OHI has as well. And I would say autism has probably remained about the same.
Thank you. That's what I was wondering.
At least recently, yeah. No, thanks for asking.
It's a really thorough report, and it's really impressed with your ability to take all that information and put it together in such a few short pages. It really is well done, and please extend our gratitude to our student services team, who are really doing the heavy lifting in a lot of this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Most definitely. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Sarah, information and advocacy report, life ready indicators.
Steve, what up? How's the weather looking?
Woo, yeah, good.
Got an umbrella?
Yes, it's loud. It's in my car.
Yeah, it looks like it's still south of us, thankfully.
Good.
Let's hope those people down south are doing okay.
Looks like we'll get rain though, either way. Okay. Thank you. I've had 2 information advocacy reports to read tonight. Thank you. It's a lot of reading. The information advocacy report that we have up is looking at for the students who are prepared for college and career readiness, their academic and academic development and behaviors to prepare them to be citizens, those life-ready indicators. And these look familiar because through our board workshop and our Board of Ed Power Goals, a couple of these areas are front and center in those as well. So I think we'll have a good conversation. The first section is looking at that volunteerism piece that we're talking about. Within the board power goals, it was determined to look at how students would participate within at least 2 community-based or school-based activities as a group, whereas Silver Core, a little different. It's a little more individualized focus, and we're looking at hours for individual students, not just 1 or 2 times they're going out to volunteer. So if you're familiar with Silver Core, students need at least 140 volunteer hours in order to earn a silver cord if they were at graduation. Over time, we can see how many students have completed those 140 hours. We do see over time, in general, a decline in the percentage of seniors who completed. So this current class of 2024, this recent class of 2024, only 14% completed it. But I am starting to look at the number of students who are doing hours. So I wanted to provide that information below. So while only 28 students met the 140 hours, we did have a good number of students who completed a range from 2 hours to 98 hours, as well, a total of 49 students. So students are volunteering. And again, this is what's being documented and turned in. There's some paperwork. Kids are doing things, might not just be in our form that we have here. And again, looking a little bit later in the next page, we see a higher percentage of females than males who are interested in Silver Cord. And even as I was looking at some of the pictures of our summer school volunteers, looking at students, we would see what appears to be a higher female presence than male presence, but we do see males, which is great. It's part of our summer school volunteer program as well. as we think about the Silver Cord program, I know our high school team is looking at that volunteerism piece, especially with the board goals. And they are looking at Silver Cord and thinking, how can we make it more inclusive? Do we adjust the hours? Do we adjust how? And Leah, you brought this up too, like what's allowed? There's a lot of students volunteering through sports and other clubs and activities. Sometimes those aren't allowed because it's double dipping. So the team is looking at that, and I think as the board and future workshops looks at the power goals more, we can have a good conversation there. Any questions for Silver Cord and volunteering?
I would also love to see that form online, like completed through a Google form, because the amount of time, I keep finding half sheets of Silver
I
Cord,
hear you.
and then it's hard to keep track of what they've turned in, what they haven't, for a while. At least it's on Infinite Campus now, where I can see, and I don't have to send an email, although I was like, you're failing Silver Cord, because it was like, you know, 25% complete or whatever. You're like, you're failing Silver Cord right now, you know.
It is nice having it in campus now, and I know Cody Lundquist has been looking at some systems, or either purchase systems or current systems that can help track it better. I keep copies and pictures of them as well at home, just to make sure things go through.
It's not my thing, but it's required for graduation for my kids. I told them because I know the people that sign the diplomas. So.
Good idea. Graduation rates. A table is provided comparing the total number of seniors on the first row. The second row is then the percentage of those seniors that graduate. And in the third row is percentage of Wisconsin seniors that graduate. We don't have the class of 2024 graduation rates from the state. Those are certified in December with a poll from Infinite Campus from all the schools within the state. So we'll get an official number to compare, but we can see previous years, Mount Horeb is above the state average for graduation. There are instances where, well, as you can see, we don't have 100% yet of seniors graduating. A couple reasons. One reason, seniors who enter into our 18 plus program aren't considered graduating, even though they've completed our programs, walked across our stage. The state doesn't consider them graduated until they fulfill their program and graduate out of their program. So that's a little frustrating, because we technically, I think, many years do have 100%.
So can you go back and like, I don't, you know, in 2 years, you know, update the 23, 24, because then it's 99%. Or
We can do it internally, but I try to keep the state to apples to apples. Yeah, compared to what we have now. But Mount Horeb is big enough yet small enough that we can go back and track our kids and know which kids didn't and why, and we can justify it. Any questions for graduation? Great. Attendance. So attendance was also one of the board's power goals in keeping the attendance rate at 95% or higher. We can see our percentage across the Wisconsin public schools in Figure 1. So about this past school year, about 92.4% of students with the attendance rate in Wisconsin. And then we can see our attendance rate trends each year is higher again than the state. And our goal is 95%. We are increasing, which is nice to see since COVID. Up from COVID, well, COVID-ish year, we'll say the year after COVID, 21-22, right, that 92.4, and we're up to the 94.6, so a 2.2% increase, which is nice compared to the state over the 2 years was, 3 years was, well, 1.1. So our increase is 2 times the state level, even though it's a very small percentage, but we're very much looking forward to seeing what 24-25 brings, especially with all the work our buildings have been doing with attendance campaigns, calling families, working with building bridges, just all the supports that Brian has put in place to really make sure our kids are in school and attending so they can learn.
And if you don't mind me, the board took very proactive action about a year and a half ago to adjust how we calculate time away, if you remember. So I think that's helping our cause as well. We're seeing a greater return. Thank you, sorry, Sarah.
That's a pretty good point. And with some new systems, we're able to track those chronically absent students better and see percentages. So we're going to start sharing this information as well. And then disaggregating it. I've been keeping an eye, since I oversee our EL program, when we disaggregate the data, it's our EL population is our highest population with attendance concerns. So it's an area that my team is aware of, and we're going to infuse more family nights. Actually, one of our family nights will be probably the same night as August 27th. We'll figure that out. But making families aware of attendance and where we want our students to be and the importance of it. So again, everything we know starts at home and making sure families are educated. So that's about what we're taking as well.
I have a quick question, Sarah.
Please.
Just looking at this, and we're looking at different demographics.
Yeah.
And, one thing that you won't be surprised that this stuck in my head was,
Sure.
We're looking at like silver cord hours. We're looking at this percent of males, this percent of females. What about kids that identify as non-binary? Non-binary. Just curious if that's recorded, or if how our records have to be kept because of with the state. I know it has to be one or the other.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so I was just curious.
It's a good question. Yeah, I thought about that as I was speaking. Yeah, so within Infinite Campus, any of our demographic data that we pull is based on the state descriptors. So once the state descriptors get better.
Our district is better about that with our own records, but okay.
Yep. Thank you for asking that.
When we look at like this data here, is there?
The top or bottom or?
Yeah, looking at the group that has the highest
Sure.
absenteeism, is there an age component to that as well?
Mhm.
No, it's across,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, it is. It's across. That came off families and kids right now. Yeah, it's across the board.
Okay.
I'm just curious too, as far as absenteeism goes, if that would correspond to with kids that are utilizing or needing mental health services. I would be interested to see that comparison too, just because I know that can kind of go hand in hand, that are having mental health issues.
Likely as a factor, the good news is one of the things that the board, again, very thoughtfully has done is said that, if you're going to day treatment, for example, while during school, that doesn't count as an absence per se.
Yeah.
But that connection certainly is one that could be studied.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, we're able to look at who the, when I was getting 8.7% of students are, and know specifically them, and look at and track their attendance and reasons why, and we do a better job of that.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to add to the recording, but is it a parent request, is it a sick day? I mean, you could add there, a mental health issue, and do you need resources? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, our
I don't
student
know if you
services
wanna-
team members,
Yeah.
now that we have a tool to track this better, quicker, I should say. As Infinite Campus, we can pull anything, it just takes a little work. But with a product called NextPath, we can pull this like this. I know the names of the student services teams, when they meet weekly, can really use the data better.
Could that even be something in the Infinite Campus, in the app when you're reporting, like could that be a choice, like mental health day, mental health issue type thing?
And it could be a
Or does that
comment.
give too many?
It could be a comment, we have to follow
A comment.
the can's not the right word, but the drop down that we have.
How it's set up in there?
Especially with our policy, whether it's
Okay.
parent requests and sick day, and
Okay.
things like that.
And this maybe it sounds silly. I don't want people to use it like mental health day, like, oh, I'm tired, I need to.
Oh, yeah, no,
I'm
yeah.
thinking about like, my daughter's on the bathroom floor because she's having a panic attack and I
Exactly.
can't get her to go to school. Like, the
Exactly.
difference, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
I do have to say, us changing the policy though has been with those types of situations where we're like, okay, that was an hour of her life, but now we're over it, and now we can go to school. Whereas before, it'd be like, well, what is the point? Because the whole day's counting.
I totally agree with that.
And now
We've
I'm-
had the same.
Yes, and now it's like, okay, that counts as part of your day, but now you go to school. And you
Yes.
still, I think that has helped, at least I know in my house, has helped tremendously. We're like, okay, we can still go. It doesn't count. It's not an all or none kind of situation
Right.
anymore.
Yep.
It is nice. A lot of good work was done there. And then we just have by grade level. It's interesting to see at our grade levels over time. I don't think there's any big surprises. We can look at cohorts or we can look at it by year. So
I mean, there is one that went down.
which one? are you looking
Grade
at?
7.
Yeah, but they're not
From
far,
last year.
they're not far from where they were the year
It's
before.
fine.
The cohort or the cohort's pretty spot on. Yeah. Any other questions, wonders, thoughts? But
I also think we've done a good job at, for post-COVID, it was, don't send your kid to school if they have any one of these symptoms. So now we're like, okay, if they have the symptoms, they can come, as long as it's just not, this really high fever or this other thing. And I know like, that's where I struggled after COVID. I'm like, I don't know, you have this, and I don't think we're supposed to, just stay home. Like, it was better than to send them and then get a call and then have to go pick them up and all. So I think we've done better too at explaining to parents what we're supposed to do.
yeah, and messages from public health have changed, and it's just swinging back and just evening out a little bit that pendulum.
Board members, both of these information and advocacy reports now are reflective of the new Breakthrough 2032 strategic plan, which we began implementing here in July. So we hope that the new information meets with your request. And I want to take a moment to thank Sarah and Brian for also weaving in the board's power goals as we can continue to update you as to where we're moving. And so if you have suggestions about how we can make this even more helpful to you, the community, by all means, please let us know. We want to do whatever we can to help make this beneficial to you. But a tip of the hat to you, Sarah, for calling this data together. It's a lot, and you've done a really nice job per usual.
If you need a longer report, Brian is more than welcome. If you need it shorter, I can help you guys. Thanks, Thanks, guys.
Moving on, number 7, our action item. Dave Reed, you want to talk about fencing?
Yeah, if you've been to the soccer stadium, the fence that separates the parking lot at the high school and the soccer stadium has taken some abuse over the years, and it's a kind of a black eye as you pull into our complex there. So we've been thinking about how to redo it. We're going to move the fence up the hill just a little bit, put some guardrails along there. I have to mow on both sides of the fence, and it's a bit of a problem. So we're also going to take an opportunity to do some water control to make sure that retaining wall that's behind the soccer stadium doesn't continue to wash out. So, at any rate, reached out to people that we typically use, driftless fence. They said they didn't want to do that. One of the problems with it there is there's a lot of electrical and data in the ground, so they have to be very careful when they dig. DRH said, yeah, we could probably do that. And then I reached out to Amerifence, who I've not used before, but I've got good reviews from them. They came in with quite a bit of a different bid. Says to me that DRH would do it for $46,000 for sure. I'll give you a number if you want to pay me that. I'll do it for sure. Amerifence is definitely the guy we want to go with. So they, on your approval, we'll get started as soon as they can schedule in their work. Any questions?
Where's Amerifence out of?
I wish I had that right here in front of me. It's local. Yeah, they're local. Yep.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Leah, seconded by Sarah to approve the budgeted purchase of fencing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Dave.
Perfect. Thank you.
McFarland. We're on McFarland.
Jonathan McFarland, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I could have looked it up for you, but thank you, Sarah.
Sure.
My fingers were broken.
B, initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed 34 million.
Good evening, board members. This is the culmination of a lot of work done by many board members at this table, but also a number of community members. Over the course of the past 18 to 24 months, our friend and colleague from Bray Architect, Ryan Sands, is joining us on the telephone, on the online.
We can see him. I can see him right there.
It's on your computer.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
on
on
your
the
computer,
screen.
but he doesn't want to
Please hold.
go on the board there.
There we go. Hi, how are you there, Ryan?
I'm good, how are you all today?
It's very nice to see you. Ryan, for those of you who have been at some of these facility steering committee meetings, has just been instrumental in helping us kind of winnow down what the ask has been. I say this as a culmination because you may remember the Board of Education actually went to the electorate and surveyed them on a much broader, much larger project scope. And at the time, the results told us, hey, you know what? Let's hold because the ask might have been too much. And that didn't dissuade this team. They went back and refined the ask. And what you see here tonight is the recommendation from the Facility Steering Committee based upon the results of the most recent community survey, which took place this past spring, and the results of which we've shared with you at a previous meeting. So we're asking the board to please consider two things tonight. The first of which is an actual resolution that would authorize the school district to engage in this process. And then the second, as you will see, is the specific language that would accompany said resolution, inclusive of the ballot question. For those who are uninitiated and are listening in and wondering what is this all about, we're really looking at a couple of key pieces. The largest portion of this is to address and solve for the Early Learning Center's placement, as it is a building that is in need of some tender loving care and would be very, very expensive to invest into based upon what we've learned from our friends at Bray. And then there's economies of scale that can be reached by bringing the ELC closer to the recently renovated primary center. And the scope of that project has just been sketched out at very high level detail with if there could be approval from the board tonight, and eventual approval from the community would allow us to enter into a design bid build process for a new early learning center attachment to the primary center. But then there are other needs throughout the district, chief among them here in this very building, to address the needs of our special education students. Many of them are teaching in learning in what has been previously identified as closets. I'd like to punch some holes in some walls, make some windows, make the classrooms a little bit larger for our faculty, our students, to be learning in an environment that really truly is conducive to learning. And then also addressing some mechanical needs throughout the district. Think about roofing. The last time we went for a capital referendum in 2017, the needs of our intermediate center roof weren't all fully needed, and now here we are almost 8 years later. By the time the work could get done, we've tried to stretch out the return on that investment as long as possible, but there are portions of that intermediate building that need some love on their roof. So we've formulated the question in such a way as it takes into consideration the feedback we've received from our colleagues at Bray, as well as our bond counsel, Allison Buchanan, and allows us to do as we did last time in 2017, that if the design bid build process nets us a more favorable scope price, that maybe we could look at some additional low-hanging fruit around our capital. And we believe it reflects what would be the costs associated with all the projects that we've identified through the Facility Steering Committee now over these past several months. An itemization of that would be provided by Ryan and his team. Much that's going to need to be refined, I'm sure, over the course of the next couple of months as we continue to see an ebb and flow in terms of labor prices and material prices as well. But with that being said, I'm just going to quickly check in with my friend Ryan. Ryan, would you add anything to that at all, or is there any reflections you'd like to make?
No, I think that was a nice summary, Steve, but I'm here to answer any questions that are any of you after your discussion.
Thank you, sir. And so, free to open it up to questions you may have, particularly about the resolution, if that's okay first.
While you think about your questions, I'll share with you, Carly's obviously not able to attend, but she did want her position shared with us, so I'm just going to read it. She wrote, "A long-term solution to the growing needs of the ELC is sorely needed, and I believe this one represents the best of the realistic options that have been studied and considered over the years. The district community has stepped up for our schools time and again. I don't take what we're asking of them now lightly or for granted. That said, our youngest students and their teachers and staff deserve a safe and effective learning environment that meets the needs of modern education practices, and I believe this solution gets us there." Other thoughts, questions?
I've seen the 34 million, but again, that's the all-inclusive, including the geothermal and all those pieces, right?
Thank you. I failed to mention that. That's a really good point. Yes, it does include the geothermal and does have some contingency baked in the event that we find ourselves in a rock.
Yeah.
It's typically the big issue here.
Line for dynamite.
Good job making Ryan laugh.
Yes.
I move the initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $34 million.
I second that.
Motion by Leah, seconded by Sarah to approve the resolution providing for a referendum election on the question of the approval of an initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $34 million. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, roll call vote. Okay. Joe?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
I am also a yes.
Motion carries.
And then our second resolution.
And here again, board members, then what this does is it layers in far more detail with regard to the ask in terms of what we would share with the electorate, the timing of our sharing of information with the electorate, and then you'll also find Exhibit B, which is the referendum details on the next page, in which you will see the proposed ballot question. And we have some work to do on our end then, in the event that the board does intend to move forward with this, in terms of meeting requirements for posting of this information and the like. And that's why I'm so grateful to have my friend and colleague Chelsea Hedges here tonight. Should the board approve this here this evening, we'll need to get some autographs from a couple of board members, please, and thank you.
This does have a tremendous amount of information in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I move the resolution providing for the referendum election on the question of the approval of the initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $34 million.
I second that.
Motion by Leah, second by Sarah, to approve the resolution providing for a referendum election on the question for the approval of an initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $34 million. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Joel?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
I am also a yes.
That motion carries. May I just leave it open to board may have questions of our architects, Bray Architect, in the event that you would like. We've got a brilliant mind here with us this evening. Any questions for dear Ryan?
I do feel like we should ask you something.
I know.
I'm here, but I don't have anything.
How many stories can we build up? in one single classroom?
Well, we're excited to support you with the next steps with the referendum informational campaign based on your actions this evening. So thanks for continuing to trust us as your partner. We look forward to the next steps.
We are continuing our bi-weekly meetings. Those will again occur starting this Thursday in light of the board's action here tonight. We're happy to have interested board members participate. If you are interested, just let me know, so that way if I need to notice it, I certainly can do that. With that being said, thank you for taking this big step for our community, for our children, and now we have some work cut out for us, which is great. Upward, Brian. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
You too, friend.
7D, Brian, you get to join us again. Policy 453.4, administering medication to students.
Yeah, so this had, it was brought for first round last week. It involved quite a few updates. And so I can kind of just go through the updates quickly. It started with kind of the definition and responsibilities, what became the header. In the second paragraph, we took out during school hours, made it school-sponsored event, not setting. In the third paragraph, we added psychiatrist. Oh, you highlighted it too, so great. Psychiatrist, and then all other medical providers. And then quite a ways down, we changed, so if we go almost all the way. Oh yeah, we did it in the numbers. We did change, I know, Joel, you had made a recommendation about adding putting one with the other, so we had one less. So we made that change. And then under the self-administration, all the way kind of at the bottom, there were some changes there. So we added, 2 and 3 kind of, we took a sentence out of 3, which is a student possession of drugs not intended for individuals listed on the prescription label, moved up to 2. Then in 3, we added share, possess, provide. So we added the extra verb. And then we took out the section on CBD because it's listed, it was in number 4, it used to also be 5. And then we'll add some clarifying language. The next policy that I'll bring to SAW will be on the tobacco and other drugs policy. So we'll add there. And then we added the alcohol and other drugs to the cross-reference. And I think that was the collective whole of what we changed from the last one.
We were on a roll last time.
Steve and I even rewatched the board meeting to make sure we caught it. So, yeah.
Motion to approve board policy 453.4.
Second.
Motion by Leah, seconded by Sarah to approve board policy 453.4, administering medication to students. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Thanks.
Number 8, citizen comments. Any citizen? Okay. Thank you. Number 9, future agenda items. If there's anything that you would like to discuss, please let me or Dr. Smile know. Number 10, schedule of next meetings. Anything you would like to highlight?
Maybe just briefly, if you don't mind me reminding the Finance Committee that we'll be meeting on Tuesday the 23rd. That's because Scott DeYoung has been tied up with auditors who are starting tomorrow. And as per usual, Scott's got every piece covered. You should see the administrative conference room with all the materials they need. Amazing, yeah. So, thank you, Scott, and so we'll do that on the 23rd. But that also means we also have a BGT meeting next Monday night, our first one, I think, probably in a couple of months.
Right. We'll have to reorganize and all that fun stuff. Yep.
We're starting on this, Dave.
Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Joel to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.